Really happy to say Matthew Bryza is here, a former Deputy US Assistant Secretary of State for Europe and Eurasia. If we have time, I am interested in your personal recollection of being in Türkiye on that night. But first of all, Matthew, when you were at state, what was the classification for Türkiye? That it was a country that might likely have a coup or not, or was that something that state was looking at?
No, it's nothing that the State Department was looking at all, and there was no desire for there to be a coup. There was a recognition that President Erdogan, well then Prime Minister Erdogan, had been democratically elected. People had complaints about various aspects of the political system, as in many countries. But no, there was a coup is, especially of a NATO member state with a democracy, that is a bad thing for U.S. national security usually.
Do you think U.S. intelligence may have missed something? Because it must have taken quite a few years for FETÖ, the terror group, to put it all together.
Well, possibly, but where was it being put together, right? I mean, I think it's probably being put together here in Türkiye, and then the question is, well, what was missed here on the ground?
Yeah.
And I think it's important to keep in mind that, well, of course, FETÖ himself lived in the United States, had his permanent residency status, and he's got all the charter schools that were generating revenue. He's fundamentally, though, this is where he is from, and he even had cooperation with officials at the time. So I think the U.S. really did not want to see a coup happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're kind of going in the direction that many people at the time in Türkiye thought that maybe there was some outside influence, maybe there was something that outside actors knew about that would have helped the Turkish government if they had been told. What about that night for you? Where were you?
Yeah, I was in my house here in Istanbul. I was just putting my daughter to bed. She was like 5 years old or so at the time, and my wife came in and said, "You gotta watch what's going on TV." And so I was here in the forests of Istanbul, but then I felt really connected to it. I watched every moment of coverage, and I was really surprised and relieved that the TV news coverage continued, even when in this studio where we are, the coup plotters were in here. But that was a huge oversight, thank God, by them, that they allowed the broadcast to continue and enabled the Turkish people to be rallied in support of their democracy.
What do you see? We're both outsiders.
Yeah.
We both come from abroad to live in Türkiye. What do you see as the legacy of what happened?
I think this pictures of the rally is a couple days later. I wish that was the legacy, but the legacy is that Turkish democracy is real and it's strong, and people on the outside who claim it's not are just ignorant of what's going on. This moment of the huge rally was when the entire political spectrum was unified in defense of Turkey's democracy. That's a beautiful legacy to maintain. Of course, there are big battles now politically. There's tribal politics like there is in my home country, the United States. But the fact that peaceful demonstrators stopped a military coup and strengthened their own democracy, that's a beautiful historical legacy.
Wasn't it kind of almost shocking to you to see people outside, some of them in pajamas, holding slippers, confronting tanks, saying, sure, kill me if that's what it takes?
It was shocking and so uplifting. And I knew at that moment when the tanks stopped, when they're on the bridge and the people were out there like you just described, this coup was not going to succeed.
It reminded me a bit about Egypt and the eventual downfall of Hosni Mubarak when almost the military turned to their leader and said, look, we can't kill any more people on your behalf. Yeah. Matthew, I know you're going to be with us for our special. That's going to start at 1900 GMT, so not long before you're back on set to talk about this very, very important commemoration that Türkiye is holding.